So parents will often wonder, should I tell or not tell the school? So that's a big dilemma often, to tell or not to tell. And actually there isn't any simple right or wrong, yes or no answer to that. It really is a personal decision that each family has to make. And it should be based on the pros and the cons of each option. And then you decide which way, the scale tips and, whether it's to your advantage to tell or not. And the things to consider usually in making that decision are, first of all, is your child's anxiety or OCD manifesting in school in a way that impacts their functioning? If it isn't, then perhaps there's no need to tell. But if it is, then the next consideration would be, what are your goals in telling the school? What are you hoping to, get out of the school to be able to help your child function better? And then the third question would be, are your goals realistic? Is that something that's achievable in the school or by the school that your child goes to? And we'll talk more about how you figure that out. And then finally, another important consideration is, how will it impact your child if you tell the school? And is your child ready for that? So let's kind of think about each of those. How is your child's functioning impacted? So often with anxiety or OCD, children may not be able to complete their schoolwork, they're repeating things, they're running to the teacher or the counselor many times for reassurance, and so that affects them. It might affect them socially, so they're very nervous and timid and shy, or they're doing repeated habits and other kids are making fun of them, or they're being neglected, and so in that sense they're affected socially. So if you told the school, would it help them understand your child better so that your child isn't misunderstood? Because sometimes teachers who don't know what's going on may assume that a child who's not getting their work done is just not working hard enough, or is lazy, or isn't trying, and that's not the case at all. So it's often when you don't want your child to be misunderstood in a negative way that it becomes important to tell, or if their actual academic functioning is impacted so that they're getting poorer grades than they really are capable of. But then you have to think about, are the goals realistic? If you're asking for accommodations, what are you hoping the school will do? Give you some accommodations for your child? And are those goals then realistic? And that depends on whether you believe the school has the resources and the capability and the willingness to provide those accommodations. And that depends a lot on the type of school. Is it a public school or a private school? Private schools generally may not, have as many resources to put towards, special needs that kids have, whereas public schools are, mandated to do that. A lot depends on the staff at the school as well. And then finally, how does it impact your child? Children and teens are very embarrassed and ashamed, and they want to be, seen as typical. So when you ask for any accommodations, remember they need to be discreet, not to make your child different. They don't want to stand out as different. So these are the things to think about, and it's very important to be proactive rather than reactive, to think ahead, to not make an overnight decision or an sort of spontaneous decision about these things, but rather to sleep on it, to think about it. I usually recommend that it's a good idea to even make a list, write them down, type them up, pros and cons of each option, and then that will help you weigh the decision. Now, if you have a therapist, the best thing to do is to have this discussion with the guidance of your therapist to weigh all those pros and cons and decide if it's best for you.